We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
You got to have the why, and we know our why. So
you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Yep. Millions and millions of people have done this already. You can get help, you can get a roadmap, you can save a lot of time, money, and frustration. Welcome to the Value Add Podcast with K&K. Hey everybody, welcome back. I am your host, Crystal Moore.
Your host, I am the co-host, I guess, Kenny Simpson.
Thanks for tuning in with us today. So we are excited to release this episode. As you know, we're kind of releasing the last episodes of the year to be about your goals for 2020 and different topics surrounding that. So we have Dylan Welch on the podcast of Dylan Welch Media. And if you guys have not been thinking about your content game for 2020, now is the time to start planning. So in this episode, we talk with Dylan all about content and production and what you need to do in order to get started in 2020 to catch up with the rest of the world.
Yeah, and the other thing he really did talk about, which Crystal and I are doing, so kudos to us, but you guys should be doing, is starting your own podcast. How somebody like him can actually help you start a podcast. He has a place where you can shoot it. He can actually go out and find guests and like the whole kit and caboodle. We do it the hard way here, but he can make your life a lot easier. But he goes through why it's so important to have a podcast and how it can help you build your brand and your business. And at the end of the day, make you more money.
In this episode, we also talk about how it's helped us and our business, so you can hear firsthand what kind of success we've been having with the podcast, social media, and basically all the outlets that we've been utilizing.
Yeah, so tune in, check it out. He actually asked us a few questions too and turned the tables on us, so it's kind of fun to go back and forth with him.
Check it out. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Value Add Podcast with K&K. Today we have Dylan Welch with Dylan Welch Media. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So we were just talking to Dylan, about a bunch of stuff and who we know in the industry. And Dylan, kind of jump in, just kind of tell us what you're doing now, and then kind of just tell us a little bit about your history in basically media or whatever exactly you do. I know you're doing facets of stuff within media.
Yeah, I guess the simplest way to put it is I do media conceptualization, production, and distribution. So if you know you need to get your stuff out there on social media, video, whether in the real estate industry, finance, or business owner, anything, everyone's screaming from the rooftops, you need to create content. And I'm kind of there to help the people do that, create it, and get it out there to the mass audiences.
Okay,
cool. So just as like a quick example, if we were just like, let's say I'm a small business owner and I have not started social media in any place. Like I'm just coming and I'm like, I heard I need to be doing this. Everybody keeps telling me, but I don't really know where to start. How would that conversation go with that person, and how would you help them?
Well, the first thing I would say is, and I have kind of these like 4 different levels, so I can go into that. Yeah. First and foremost, that means they're probably working off of referrals and, connections. And honestly, above all else, that's the most important thing. I'd tell people, don't give up on that. Like, still build those relationships. Social media and media in general is just an added tool to get your message and your brand to a bigger audience to draw them in. So if they have nothing, I'd be like, create an Instagram page, create a Facebook page. Go out there. We all have, cameras in our phones. Turn around and take a selfie at a house that you're listing. Just do something to get out there. That's at least step number 1. Step number 2 is called kind of the professional step. So, hire a professional photographer to take photos of your listing, hire a professional videography team to take some good videos for you. The next step is the TV show. So kind of what you guys are doing, where you have your own show, your own podcast. And then the step number 4 is basically start increasing your price points. So that's kind of the process that I say. So if you don't have anything, create the social media pages, then hire some professional people to create stuff, start building your own show, and then at that point, you're going to be kind of reaching bigger and bigger people. So jack it up.
And do you help people along the way and on all 4 steps of that?
Yeah, most of the people that I work with are usually at that 3rd level where they're already hiring and working and seeing the value of really high quality media, and then taking it to that next level, which is what you guys are doing, which is having that show. And it's awesome that you guys are doing it. You guys are already like miles ahead of most of the people that I talk to and work with. And just having a show like this does so many things. And I mean, you guys probably see it, but you get to bring on, thought leaders. You get to be seen as thought leaders yourself just by having these conversations.
Yeah.
You're providing value to a ton of people on platforms that are national and international, where one person can listen to a podcast or 1 million people can listen to a podcast. So I'm there to kind of go from that 3rd level to that 4th level, and then creating a plan that works for them, identifying who their audience is, what are their goals for what they want to accomplish with their business, and then again just using media as a tool to help them accomplish those goals.
Yeah, it's interesting because we didn't do anything.
We were that person.
We
like
were
referrals.
So we didn't do anything, and I was like, we were selling a property management company. It took a lot of our time. It just got too big too fast, and so we're like, okay, when we have this extra time, we should put it and do marketing. But what are we gonna do? And I'm like, I'm not gonna call. I'm not going to cold call people. We're just not going to do it. We don't have to do it. We're not going to do it. It's not that I'm against it. I'm just not going to do it. So then Crystal was listening to a guy named Gary Vee, who and she's like, you should listen to this guy. And this was probably 2017.
It was probably the end or early 2018, somewhere around there.
I think towards the end. So I started listening to this guy, and I was like, wow. Because I didn't understand social media. I didn't understand it all, because all I saw was like people with just like bullshit stuff on there. It seemed all fake.
Remember, we're not like young, but we're not old, but I don't think, but some people would say, but we come from, if you remember, maybe 10 years ago, it was like, do not have your clients on your Facebook page. That is like your personal page. Do not, like, that's unprofessional. Like people are like
partying in college.
People are getting fired by sharing with their employers or having.
And if you're on social media, people, it wasn't a business thing. It wasn't a thing. It was kind of like people kind of frowned upon it because they didn't understand it. So basically what Gary Vee, by his listening to stuff, is I understood, oh, there's another side to social media. There's a business side. Okay, I'm interested. So I immediately flew there, went to the 4D. And then when I was in the room, I always tell the story is, Gary's at the table, I'm right here, and we're going around, and I tell him our story, and so he goes, okay, so what do you want from me? I was like, well, what do I do? He goes, what do you mean, what do you do? I go, well, I don't know what to do. He's like, you have something in your head? He goes, yeah, just go do it. Just fucking do it. That's him. And what we realized is we didn't know exactly what we're doing, but he said, anything you know about real estate, go and just give it all away. So what we did is we decided, okay, number one is I said, we should start a podcast. Because this is my thought. Nobody says this. I said, if I start a podcast and I bring Dylan on, or I bring this guy or that guy, and I interview them and we talk about your business, and you bring value to community. So that's why we bring you on, and you're going to help somebody and they can listen to it. You're going to take my information, and you're going to put it on your platform. People are going to be introduced to me. And if I do that over and over, I could meet 1 million people, 2 million people, whatever. But this could elevate me and my business and my name. And people think like, oh, maybe you're some type of celebrity or something, but it brings more business. You make more money, which ultimately is done. But that's what I was thinking. The other thing is I would just stand in front of the green wall with my whiteboard, and now I'm known to do that, is I just go, what topic are we going to talk today, Monty? And anything in real estate that I've learned, I just share with the audience. And now I started learning, I just share everything. And that's probably somewhat what you teach people to do as well.
Exactly. I think what's really cool in the age that we're living in is there's so much content out there that there's competition to provide the most value and be educational and entertain people, and also be as cheap as possible. I mean,
that's what it turned into, right?
It's great. Like, you can, instead of going to college, you can literally learn everything you need to know from experts off YouTube. That's crazy. So you
could build a house from YouTube. I mean, you could do anything you want.
So the power is there, and that's what's really cool about the time that we live in. If you want to go out and learn something, the people who are the experts in that space are putting it out there to help you, but also to build their brand and get marketing content out there for themselves.
Yeah.
I got a question. So how many episodes have you guys done, and how long have you been doing this?
So we did we start filming at the end of 2018?
At the end of 2018.
We did.
Yeah.
So we wanted to have 10 episodes.
Yeah, we didn't release them until February.
Yeah, so we wanted to have 10 episodes like in the vault, so to speak, so that way if we ever got behind, we were really worried about getting behind. So we really kicked it off like February 2018, and now I think we maybe have like 55 or 56 episodes.
That's something to be really
65?
proud of.
Oh, 65.
65. Nice.
So we met with a person that helps, I'm not going to say name, helps influencers in the background. And her sister-in-law is very famous as an influencer. And so basically one of the things that I didn't even know, she goes, hey, if you're going to launch stuff, you should have this many pictures, this many videos. And I was like, what? And then even Gary went through and they said, look how many he has to post, and they sent him. So we realized, okay, we need to have a bunch. So what we did, and then when we launched in January, we would do 2-3 podcasts a Friday, and then we just killed it. And then we were like, oh my gosh, we literally have too many in backlog.
People would be emailing us like, hey, when's my episode going to release? And I'm like, it's like 2 months from now.
Yeah. So we talked about an event, and it's like months ago.
Yeah. So we basically stopped doing it for 2 months and said, okay, and we caught up, and now we're releasing it more faster. But our goal this year was to do 50. We surpassed that. And but you just get more comfortable, and then it
becomes fun, honestly. Like, I used to never want to do this stuff. Now it's just like, cool, let's do it. Let's talk about it. It's exciting. So have you guys seen, now that you're starting to put it out there, because I feel like there's a certain level, a lot of people start a show, start a podcast, they'll get to maybe 10, 15 episodes, like, oh, I haven't gotten a new client, so I'm going to give up. I think it's the people that stick with it are the ones that reap the benefits. So have you guys seen people listening to the show and seeing it on social media and reaching out to you and be like, I listen to that? Isn't it awesome 100%. When that starts happening?
I'll let her
answer. And also, like, for us, it wasn't even just that. I mean, I don't think, like, for us, when we decided to start the podcast, yes, we were like, this could be a good form of marketing, but we never told ourselves, hey, we're going to do 15 episodes, and if it's not working, we're going to quit. Because the one thing that we definitely learned from Gary Vee, and that I'm even learning now, is this is a long game. And I can't even necessarily tie it back and go like, well, this person came to me directly through the podcast, and therefore it makes it worth it. So it's not the same as doing a mailer or Google ads or something where you're actually tracking data of like clients who come to you. It's more like branding. Like, how many clients have I gotten now because it's somebody I worked with before and they forgot about me, but now they saw me on Instagram or heard about our podcast or got something that came back to me that would have otherwise gone to somebody else.
It's so cool. And I think what's cool with podcasts, and I think I've kind of seen this trend change where couple of years ago, everyone wanted this really highly polished 1-minute commercial marketing video with drones flying over. And that can come off a little bit fake, where when you listen to a podcast, you actually get to know the people. And I listen to a podcast and I'm like, that's my friend. I've never met that person, but it's probably the same with yours, where people actually genuinely get to hear you guys speaking comfortably. And I think nowadays in business, that builds a certain level of trust, because you probably meet with people and they come in almost already knowing you.
It's literally raw. Like, we don't even edit really any of these episodes. Paco doesn't cut really anything out, unless there's maybe like some technical thing with
or we mention something. They're like, hey, I probably can't disclose that just yet. Can you take that out? It's like they slip.
But that's happened like once or twice. So it's pretty much just straight, and
it's real.
It is. And so people do feel like they know us, or we'll meet people that we don't even know now. They'll reach out to us, just want to talk or come in the office or meet with us because they like listen to the podcast now, or somebody introduced them to it. So it's like brand awareness, but also people feel like they get to know you, they want to do business with you, they feel like you're an expert in that industry because you speak on it now and you just put yourself out there. And then you're also doing something that a lot of people are uncomfortable with. Like, most people don't want to come in here.
It's true.
We literally have some people that could be a wealth of knowledge that literally even still have that viewpoint that they don't want to put themselves out there, or they think there's some sort of liability involved in like talking. And it's really funny to me because I'm like, you got to get over that. It's like really old school thinking. Nowadays, if anybody wants to find anything out about you, they will. But for your business and for your life, just to put it out there and like let people get to know you, that's never bad for business ever.
It's so funny. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say is that I think the problem is we live in a world with instant gratification, as you know. So you're over here trying to talk to a client saying you need to do this for a year, and they're going, well, how much is it going to cost? I mean, we didn't sit here. We just said we're going to do this. Well, people are like, oh, do you do this, that? No. What do you want to get out of it? I was like, Crystal, when we do this, we're going to lose money, and we might get nothing out of it, but we're going to do it for like a year, and let's just see where it goes. That literally was our mindset. Let's just have fun with it. This is fun. We work on our jobs. It's stressful. It's a lot of work. This is coming here and fun. Sometimes it's stressful because you're trying to do your work and you got to do this and you committed to it. And then right about 6 months, is all of a sudden everything started to change, where it's like things started coming back. And now it's like you get an email like, hey, can you price out this deal or this? And all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's Kenny, the famous guy from Value Add K&K. And I don't think I'm famous or anything, but people are putting you on this pedestal. And what people don't realize they're putting on this pedestal is because, like Crystal said, people aren't willing to do this, but they think it's great that you are and you're this, but then you become an authoritative figure in a space, and then you become a name, and that's what you're trying to tell clients, right? You're like, this is a long game. It could take 2-3 years. I mean, we went on the Business Brothers podcast, and they said they did 80 episodes, and they didn't get nothing. There was nothing out of it. Nobody even watched it.
They had like one listener for like months.
And they kept going. And we were like, wow.
And they podcast every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
It reminds me, I don't know if you've seen the movie The Big Short with Christian Bale's character, and like he sees this trend and everyone's like, dude, what are you doing? You're fired. And then all of a sudden it works and he just sits back. And that's kind of how it is with a lot of my clients is I tell them up front, I'm like, give it 3-4 months to really build and grow.
That's probably not even long enough.
It's honestly, I'd give them, I'll tell them
a year.
Yeah,
you really
like,
want a year, I think.
Realistically, it's probably 4, 5, 6 months, but I tell them 3 months is when like you might start seeing something, especially because we film every week for a show.
Well, and then people are so skeptical. You're like, I have to get you in to just commit to 3 months, and then at 3 months, if you even see a little inkling of progress, then you can go for another
exactly. And then you'll start, and I've seen it happen every time. I've seen it. Well, that's not true. I've seen it happen to the people who stick with it. I've seen people drop off after 2 months.
A lot of people do. That's what I hear.
That's the thing right there. It's like the 2-month period. It's work. It's an investment. I get it, but then you start to see people see your stuff and reach out, and all of a sudden it's like an avalanche. And it happened with my business too. And I'm lucky enough where I'm producing so many podcasts that I get to kind of just piggyback off of their stuff. And I'll post a behind the scene photo of like, we just had so-and-so on the show I'm producing, and I can kind of use that. But now just like with my personal social media, I have people contacting me every day about media, marketing, distribution, production stuff.
You. That's awesome.
It's really exciting. And it's going back to what you said, like I hate cold calling. I don't ever want to cold call someone.
You don't have to these days.
You don't. And that's what's cool about this kind of stuff. If you're really smart, strategic, you conceptualize something that is good and actually good. Not like, oh, I'm going to put this show out there, but you think about the audience and create something that's genuinely entertaining. Then you start to reap those benefits once people really catch on to it.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm throwing something that's like off topic here, but I was thinking about when you asked the question about Joe Rogan, and I'm gonna bring in a guest that's gonna be like, what? So Bernie Sanders comes on Joe Rogan, and so then a rapper came in after, like later, and was like, hey, I watched that Bernie Sanders, and I was like a rapper that's smoking a joint. I forget, some guy that's like he's
hardcore,
yeah. And so he's like, it was cool that you brought Bernie Sanders on. He's like, I don't even know the guy. I don't even like the guy. Just watch your show, Joe. He's like, what? He's like, the guy for once in his life got to sit down, not on cameras, not some bullshit interview, and just tell a story and just talk openly. Just say whatever the hell he wants to do as a president or what he thinks without getting interrupted, or you can't say this, or if you say that, you're going to get criticized. Just be free and say it. And I think even Joe said, that's what I wanted to do. Like, I don't know if you like Bernie or this. He just came on and was just open and flowing, and that was like the cool thing. I think if you go back to radio, it's probably like Howard Stern was like when you could do that, you know? So I think that's why Joe Rogan's so famous and popular, because he gets everybody on. They know when I go on there, I can just be free. Really, I could. Elon Musk can smoke joints. He can drink whiskey. He can do whatever. But that's what you're getting. But that's the experience. But he can never do that on news because they wouldn't allow it.
Yeah. And they don't have to give canned answers, and it's not going to get spun. It's like, no, I actually have enough time to say my thought from beginning to end without 20 other people dissecting it.
And I think a podcast gives this, like, it's not the news, it's not fake, it's not this, it's not structured. We're just having a conversation. Like, we could be, at a bar somewhere having lunch, having this conversation. We're just recording it. That's what we always said.
But that's why people love listening to podcasts too, because it's like you're sitting there for that conversation that you wouldn't otherwise be able to have with someone. It's like that's sort of the vibe of a podcast. It's very like raw and real. You're like, I feel like I know this person now a little bit.
Yeah, I was talking to a lady a couple days ago. But she basically helps build brands. It's a big company, and she was saying that speaking or podcast is we always are trying to get clients to do that and commit and be successful, because that can build your brand faster than anything else almost. And
Yeah.
I mean, you see that. What do you think from that, like that point of view?
Totally. And you talked about Gary Vee. Basically, Gary Vee, his podcast is his
Made him.
keystone to his whole marketing plan. So you guys probably know this, but for the people who aren't listening, basically Gary, and you guys probably do this, and now it's becoming more the norm, but he films and records his podcast, puts it out there on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. Then he'll take that hour-long video, chop it up into little 1-minute segments, and it's called like the pillared content. And that's kind of what I basically package up. Like that's pretty much what I'm offering with my company. But it's so smart because for 1 hour of filming, you can extract so much of it's insane.
Sometimes you get some amazing nuggets that those things are just
exactly.
We honestly don't even do enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's one of those things that we probably have so much content now that we could be doing. And that's what we
It's
preach to
time.
people all the
It
time,
is,
though,
yeah.
is like, if you want to take the time and you don't really want to be in front of the camera all the time, all day, every day,
Mm-hmm.
like doing one episode like this, you could get like 10, 12, 15 snippets out
and just
of
keep
that.
beating the shit out of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least. And if you think about that, you know, especially with this, you have it all set up, or, you know, if someone at home has a microphone, 1 hour of your day or 1 hour of your week is enough content to put it out there on all these different platforms for the rest of your week. So I always tell people, especially business owners, you know, time is money, time is everything for you guys. You can't be out on set all day filming, you know, a 5-minute
You're
video.
not a celebrity. You don't get paid to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you need to come in, film your stuff, and then get out of here and go pay your bills and get more sales. And then let us, you know, take it and chop it up and all that stuff. And probably the biggest problem that my clients running into is like, I have so much content now that I need help actually sharing it and using it. So what's cool about running a business, and I'm sure you guys see this, like you kind of navigate and you add stuff and you take away and you see what works. So I had to add social media management to my services because it was basically as an upsell. It's like we can create all this content, and for most people I would just give it to them and they'll have, you know, their marketing or social media team do it. But some people don't have, you know, a full marketing team, so they're like, dude, I can't post every day, blah blah blah. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll do that for you now too. So now that's kind of another thing that I'm doing for my company, is just basically the beginning to end. So
What's your team made up of? Like, who's on your team, or what do they do?
So I'm kind of the head of it. What I do, and this is kind of my main focus, and really what I like, is sort of conceptualizing the shows, figuring out, you know, what's a show that we can create that's funny, entertaining, that would actually get people listening, and then also marketing your brand. Because if you do it the other way around, where you just want to create something that markets yourself, people see right through that instantly. It's like, oh, this dude's just trying to
Nobody wants
sell
a hard
me.
sell all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So and a lot of people come to me being like, I want to market myself and get more sales. And I kind of flip the script and I say, let's come up with something that people actually want to listen to and find exactly. Yeah.
That's literally right.
Yeah.
Like that's why I understand. I never what the hell's jab. It's give.
The sales are sort of a
then
side
ask.
effect,
Yeah.
though,
So-
of a good
And you
plan.
know Frank Kern, right? So Frank Kern's big thing is he just did a whole thing. I sent it to Monty. It's like he spent $100,000. He's like, I did the straight punch in the face. Here's a sale. Didn't work. Then I did like a hybrid between this and that. And then he's like, I did here's 3 things I'm going to put out to an audience that are going to educate you and get you pulled in. And then I'm going to slap you in the face with an ad. And these 2 brought in more leads, but they didn't make it. They didn't make the money. This one brought in the least amount of leads,
Highest
but this
conversion.
conversion, but this made the money. Lost money on these 2, destroyed it on that
Yeah.
one. He's like, so that's why I do this.
Exactly.
It's the jab, right hook,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. It's like whatever, it's content, whatever you do. I think people just think like, let's just go for the sale. That's educating is the new sale.
Exactly.
That's what I learned from Gary. Like,
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
that's what he's so good at. And I think honestly, like he might be, I'm not saying he's had the concept, but he's one of the first ones that probably discovered that because the wine
He's
thing
the most out there with it.
was in
Yeah.
the wine club and it was just talking about wine. He wasn't even selling on there. It was just like, and it was terrible, but he learned like, I'm just educating people. And they love it.
And that's the other thing I feel like people are always scared to get out there and get started. When we were looking at this, I was sort of obsessing over it. I do that, but so I went back and I looked at a bunch of different people's like first podcast episodes or like first videos, and I was like, oh my god, that was awful.
Yeah.
And then I was like, we're gonna suck in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but it gave me the confidence to go like, okay, these people started here, and we got to start. Like, there's no way that you can come out the gate and be like fabulous. We all want to, and we all imagine it going that way. But the truth of the matter is, you don't just like play a sport for the first time and like knock it out of the park either.
Yeah.
So it's like getting started is the hardest part for people.
So kind of go back to your team. I know we're kind of
Yeah.
off tangent.
Yeah. And real quick on that, I'll get back to it. I always tell people I can swear on this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like the shittiest video, putting it out there is still better than not putting anything out there at all. That's
And you probably
here's
think
an
it's
example.
crappier than everybody else does.
Oh, you
know?
pick it apart yourself.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I remember talking with someone and they're like, man, have you seen what my competitor put out? This video is so bad. I can't believe. And I'm like, dude, look at what we're doing right now. You're complaining about this dude's video when he isn't even thinking about you and he's out using these, you know what I mean?
You know, the best thing is he's thanking you because your competitor, you're talking about him.
Exactly.
Because he got your attention.
Yeah.
He won.
Yeah,
It's about attention. Gary didn't say, or any of you guys, let's put out the best shit and get the attention. Like Grant's like, my first book that he read, he goes, if you have the original copy, there are so many grammar. It's the biggest, people are like, this is a joke. He goes,
Exactly.
Guess what? You're talking about it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I always tell people that, just something to think about too, like get over that fear because chances are it's probably gonna be better.
We're trading attention, right? We're trying to get attention.
Exactly. To go back to your question, so I kind of oversee everything. I have a producer who helps schedule, book guests for the different shows. I have a production team, videographers, editors, and then I just added on a social media manager. So kind of beginning to end.
Do you guys have your own studio
production.
then, or?
Yeah, so I have, I'm partnered with a financial advising firm. So they're one of my clients. And then they built out this production studio, kind of similar to this. And then when we're not filming with their stuff, I have access to use that studio the rest of the time. So it's worked out really well. Yeah.
I see that becoming more popular is like building something like this out. And I thought about it, but I'm like, we don't have time for anything else. But people are building out like a cool office where you can do the green screen and this and that.
And like renting it out or whatever.
Because it's smart because people are like, I can film, but they're like, they can't do it at home and this and that. It's like, look, when you come in the studio and you have it and it's quiet, you can just, like you said, come in, knock it out and leave. Yeah. It's like, boom, you're ready to go.
Or like you said, we were talking about it, I think, before the show, is like it gets redundant being in the same space all the time. So even for people who do have a space, but they just need a change of environment to keep it interesting, it's like another reason why it's nice to have these little studios and people that you can use to utilize their different spaces too.
Exactly. I mean, it's so cool if you think about it. And if you look back 20 years ago, you know, there was ABC had a studio and that was it in an entire city. Now with the cost going down for gear, I mean, literally everyone has a high definition camera in their pocket. This production studio that you have right here would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars 20 years ago. And now, you know, with a small, sizable investment, you can literally have your own production studio.
I mean, we
so
probably
it's really cool.
I mean, that's Paco's camera. Paco just said, let's just buy, sorry, Francisco, I call him Paco. These cameras were like, we went basic. They're $200. I mean, you've got this. I mean, you're talking maybe $5,000-$6,000.
Some people don't have any.
And don't undersell yourself. If you're listening to this studio's sick. Okay.
No, but what I'm saying is, you're $5-6 grand.
Yeah.
But it was a wall and then elaborate. But
you don't even have to have this. Like we would have done far less.
Yeah.
It's funny. We had a guy, Seal, on that went on Tim Ferriss's podcast, and he's thinking like, oh, he's like, I get there and Tim's like, here, clip this on you. We're gonna sit on chairs like kumbaya. Tim's
like on his couch at home.
He's
or
like
something.
the crappiest setup, and like, yeah, because that's Tim's vibe. That's but it doesn't matter. He has a huge audience.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I listen to London Real. You ever heard of him?
No.
Okay, he's in London. He used to be a banker, moved to London, and he gets really, really good guests. He's a very unique individual, but he has just the baddest ass studio. It's like kind of dark and cool. And but that works for him. And I think Grant kind of stole a little bit of ideas from Grant's new studio for him because it's so cool. But I think people don't realize that it's just about getting started. And that's what, but people go, what's the advice? The advice is go get started. And if you can't, go hire somebody like you. They could just get you going, and you got to get the rhythm. Because once you get past, I mean, a month or two, you start the confidence, the conversations. I mean, we used to have questions and stuff, and we kind of went away because I feel like I've interviewed 65, 70 people, whatever we're at. It's like I kind of know the flow in this conversation.
And also, it's about your vibe again. Like I know people who have certain people have had very successful podcasts that they've had for a long time and they still do questions and they want to be prepared and they do things.
No, totally.
And then there's other people who like, I guarantee you Gary Vee's not writing any questions before his episodes. So you have people from all walks and that do things differently and you can be successful either which way you want to be. You know, it doesn't matter really.
I mean, just going off vibes and not to get too deep or anything, but I think if you're actively going out and creating something like this, you're putting yourself out there, you're making yourself vulnerable. And more often than not, it's probably going to be relatively good. You know, relative is a general word, but it's not going to suck. And I think just people are supportive of you trying new things, especially with podcasts, video, social media. You're starting it in your own personal network, you know? So if I put something out there and it's embarrassing, my dad will text me and he'll be like, hey, you probably shouldn't do that. And I'll take it down. But it's not going to like, actually, yeah, I've done that a couple times where like, okay, I learned from it. I'm still going to be posting, but I'll switch it up so like it's better every time. So it gives you a little bit of room to mess around with it where you're not gonna put out your first podcast and it's gonna be nationwide and like it's gonna explode and your career's over. You know, you build it slowly but surely. So it's exciting kind of utilizing that to your advantage.
And it is too, like it's just like anything, whether you have like a goal to work out or get in shape or lose so much weight or whatever your goal is, like start a new career, pick up a hobby, whatever. Like when you first start, it's hard. Like it's like, okay, I'm not sure about this. But then the longer you go, you get better. And then it is really nice to look back. Like we have looked back a couple times and been like, oh, wow. Yeah. But you also like find yourself in the process. Like you don't know exactly, like you think you know in the beginning. And then as you go through, it kind of evolves and changes. Yeah. And that's okay. Like it's kind of cool that people get to see that also with you. And your clients also, again, build like a deeper bond with you because they've watched you grow and evolve. Like, so that's part of the process. Like sucking is definitely part of the process.
It's part of life.
Yes.
Like if I look back on anything what I did 5 years ago, I was really bad at it. I mean, I'm still probably bad at a lot of things, but now I'm at least a little bit better. It's the same with starting a podcast or video series. It's kind of fun almost. Like it's something you can literally look back on and track your progress. Similar to working out, if you take a before and after. If you're doing a weekly podcast, you can look back a year ago and be like, man, that wasn't very good. But compared to where we are now, we're doing a lot better, you know?
No, I think it's crazy. And I think what you're making the point is that, you know, to do a studio, that amount of money, but not even that, just building a studio, but then to like put the content out there, the cost of every single episode. It's funny, you know who Dean Graciosi is?
Yeah.
Okay. So I follow a lot of these guys because especially Dean was on TV. And then Dean basically didn't do social media like literally till recently, but then Dean is like the man when it comes to marketing. He's like, oh, so he goes, what does he do? Is like, I'm going to go sit down with the best guys and because he can get in front of them and they go, just do this. So he hired all the people and all the people he have hired are no education, 18, 20-year-olds. And the guy that's running his $200,000 Facebook ad spend per week is 18 years old. When he came in, he was 17. And so the point is Dean friggin' launched and grew this thing because he knows how to do it. But he was like, I basically wanted to do info commercials. So I went and saw Tony Robbins and I saw his thing and I went and copied him. And then I was like, wait a minute, how do I get from this videotape into the TV? How do I do this? Like, he's like, I don't even know how to do this. But he goes, the amount of time and effort, it was a nightmare. And now it's like you're just saying, you can take a phone, hook it up there, have a conversation. That thing can be posted like now. You couldn't even fathom that 20 years ago. Never.
I think that says a lot about how connected we are and how quickly the media industry can change. And that's ultimately why I got into this industry in the first place, is because I'm fascinated about the influence mass media can have. We're all connected, from us to people in China to South America to Australia. We can all connect in a matter of instantly, basically. And I think that's a really powerful thing. And people can use that for good or for bad. You can create really crappy reality shows, or you can create really helpful educational podcasts. And I also think what's interesting, what you kind of said about TV, is I remember when I was, you know, maybe 15 years ago, my favorite TV show was Survivor. And my family and we'd sit down every Thursday at 7:30 and we'd be like, Survivor's on, come on guys. And like, you'd all sit down and you'd pick your favorite spot on the couch and you'd watch it. And there'd be a 1-minute commercial break and you'd run and get like a snack. Now thinking about me ever sitting down at like 7:30 to watch a show is crazy.
Ludicrous,
you
right?
know? And, like,
Yes, beyond crazy.
You don't even have cable.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
literally.
You laugh.
So-
you're like, shh.
and that's going back to like the before and after of tracking it. That's so powerful. Just thinking about how, the media is $1 billion industry, and something that was so normal seems so foreign now.
Distant, yeah.
And the people, I always tell people, like the people who can just kind of notice those trends and just be a little bit ahead of the curve can take advantage of it and then ultimately capitalize on it, which is the fun, cool, exciting part.
And the thing that we've been looking at recently too is that I like is you have these like huge influencers or people like the Gary V's or the Dean Graziosis or just anybody, whether it's like Kim Kardashian or all these other people, Skinny Confidential,
Yeah.
all these people. But then you have people who are now called micro influencers. So even though you if you have 400 followers or you have 4,000 or you have 400,000 followers, you're influencing somebody, and it's a heck of a lot more than having a one-on-one meeting with somebody or picking up the phone and cold calling someone. Now you can get in front of, whether it's 200 people, you could have only had one person or 5 people instead of one person. So it's like, for me, I think too, now with social media, there's so many people who are big, like big, that other people are now like, well, I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to. Well, they all started with nothing.
Yeah.
Like, again, I've gone down, scroll all the way down their Instagram feed and go like, okay, 6 years ago when this person started, look, they were still like, they were like us, like posting pictures of family or like out to dinner or whatever. And now they've evolved to this point. Why? Because they did it every day. And also, like, I don't need to have 1 million followers. I could have 10,000 or I could have 3,000 or I could have 500 or whatever. Like, but that's your sphere of influence.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
you're influencing people no matter how many.
It's good for the consumer because we can so easily find exactly what we want, and there's no excuse not to go find something to educate yourself or entertain yourself. Like, you should never be bored. I mean, honestly, don't stare at your phone or your computer all day. Go out and exercise or whatever, but there's so much content out there that the consumer can find good stuff. And then like you were saying, from the content creator, the business owner, the marketer, you can so narrow down who you're trying to reach that you have the ability to reach those people too. So that's really cool. And that's always what I tell people when we're conceptualizing a new show for a client. It's like, well, okay, who do you want to reach? Let's really figure that out. Age, location, what are their interests? How much money are they making? Down to, as much detail as we can. Now that we know that, okay, what can we create that'll actually stop them from scrolling or capture their attention for a couple minutes and provide some sort of value or entertainment? And then the last thing is, okay, cool, what's that follow-up call to action where you've got their attention for a couple minutes? What are you going to do to then turn them into a client? So it's a really, really interesting opportunity. I mean, with a lot of the shows that I produce, we know exactly who we're talking to. I tell even when my clients first start, I'm like, we know who your audience is. Almost close your eyes and just imagine like you're sitting across the table from that person and just talk to them directly. And it's pretty cool when that happens.
No, I think that's good. What do you think? What's kind of working for you guys the best? Like, what are you seeing the best results from? Like somebody coming in that's, whether they're doing it or getting started, from what formula?
I think the most important thing is just consistency. A lot of people try something and give up because it doesn't immediately, it's that instant gratification versus thinking long term. I think with, social media nowadays, you post a photo and it doesn't get as many likes as you were hoping and it bums you out. You can't let that discourage you. I always just try to tell people, think long term. Let's really map out realistic goals for a year out. And then we can track those as we're going versus, oh, this picture didn't get 100 likes, so this sucks. I think what's good about when you're mapping out those longer term goals, little hurdles like that are nothing. It's like, cool, well, yeah, this photo didn't do it that well, but who cares? We're tracking forward, and yeah, we've still got 9 months of this to go. Like, we're not going to let that little thing hold us up. So that's really the key, is consistency, sticking with it, not giving up. And just in our society, I think people respect that, you stick with something, and the more you stick with it, the results will be there. It's just like working out, honestly. That's the way, kind of like what you mentioned before.
Right. Well, and you're experimenting too. So it's like, okay, well, I'll take that constructively and try something different.
Exactly. Be fluid too.
Yeah.
Be willing to change things.
Oh, for
and
sure, especially in marketing. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's going back to how quickly things change. I mean, even the shows I'm producing now that are only a couple months old, from where we started to where we are today, things change, you know, and
Right.
we, rather than getting discouraged that your photo didn't go viral or whatever, use it as a learning point, be like, okay, cool. Well, that didn't work. So I'm going to try something slightly different on this next one. And you just keep going with it. I always kind of imagine it as like, it's a river and you're just paddling along. You don't want to try and fight it. You just go with the flow and you make minor adjustments. And as long as you stick with it, that's where the success comes from.
So when somebody comes to you and talks to you about, okay, well, I want to start a show, I want to do this, what kind of commitments do you talk to them about? Like, this is sort of the commitment that you really need to have and make in order to be successful at this, or give it like a real shot.
So I try to map out about 1 month where we meet once a week for about an hour to figure out what the show is. And a lot of times we'll start with one idea, and by the time we figure it out and we're happy with it and we've got the name of the show, it could be something totally different. And then what my goal for my company is, I actually try to take care of all the behind the scenes stuff. So all the content, all the graphics, we schedule all the guests, we do all the bookings. So in terms of time commitment, I tell people basically, I want you to walk into the studio at 3:00 and you're out the door by 4:00. And you have, you know, I'll give you a quick prep on the guest that's coming in. But it's like you guys said, you know, once you've done it a couple times, and that's what's cool about a lot of my clients and the people who host the shows, they just walk in, they'll talk with the guest for a couple minutes, be like, all right, cool, let's hit the cameras, film the episode, and they're out the door. So a lot of my clients actually find a lot of value in that, where it's like, okay, cool, I know I'm creating all this stuff, and it's a very small time commitment for me, especially for me, I'm trying to connect with, you know, kind of higher net worth individuals who have the money to invest in themselves to do this.
I agree. Yeah. Smart.
And time is everything for those guys. They don't want to, they'd rather spend more money to be in and out the door as quickly as possible.
Well, they kind of have to, right? Because they're busy.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm busy. Let me pay the money, and you make it.
Exactly.
You just make it happen.
Yeah. So my goal is, I'm like, if this takes more than an hour of your time each week, then I'm doing something wrong. And that's where most of the clients actually get probably the value out of this is, cool, I'm not getting blown up every day and I don't have to be on set for 12 hours a week kind of thing.
And finding guests and
Yeah, that takes a
planning
lot too, as I'm
content
sure you guys
and
know.
all of
Finding
that.
good guests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because how do you go about that?
I do a few different things. I've been able to build up a good network. I work with a few PR companies where I'll basically say, you know, hey, here's my list of shows. I create like this scheduling platform for every individual show. So if I find someone cool, I'll say, hey, take this link, go in and find a date and time that works for you, and then book it. So I don't know if you guys do anything like that, but that's something that super helpful. Just kind of streamlining the scheduling link.
Calendly or something.
We use Calendly.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a glorified Calendly kind of thing. But yeah, like working with PR companies. I mean, nowadays there's so many people that understand the value of coming on things like this. You know, I'm excited to get this and repurpose it for my own marketing and things like that. So when I get invited to stuff like this, it's not a chore to me. It's like sweet, an awesome opportunity to go get myself out there, meet new people. And that's what's cool about it is if you're reaching out to people, you're never going to get like a, no, screw you, I don't want to be on your show. It's like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Let me know when I can come on.
Yes.
And then we were kind of talking about, you know, using guests on your show to tap into their network. With any show, you know, you kind of have to start a little bit smaller, but you build off that guest list, you build off that network, and you start growing it over time. And then after that, you can start getting, you know, the bigger people on your shows. And that's when it gets pretty cool, because it's like, oh, wow, they got some cool people on the show all of a sudden. And that's exciting to see.
So PR people are good at helping you find guests.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. That's like their job. You know, PR people get hired by companies to get more press. So I'll reach out I work with a few different PR companies here in San Diego, and I'll say, I have just a list of all the different shows, the topics, when we film, where it's distributed, the, you know, viewership and all that. And then I'll say, hey, here's all the different shows I'm producing. Send it out to your client list, and then all they have to do is click the link and book a date. So
nice.
For any podcast creators out there, PR companies are a great resource. They literally get paid to do it. It's kind of exciting.
Do they do anything else for you?
Not really, actually. One cool thing is I reached out to a PR company, and I'm talking to them right now, or they actually want to produce their own show, and then they're going to basically bring on their clients as just
So smart.
additional value for them. So they have a client, and it's like, all right, we're producing the show. We're gonna have you come on and talk about your latest event or your latest cool thing that's happening. And I'm
Very
like,
smart.
sweet, there we go. Like, so yeah, PR companies are good. If you're, I guess this is just some advice for the listeners out there. What I've seen when you're trying to get those higher level people, they get so many requests, podcast requests, TV show requests. A couple pieces of advice when you're reaching out to those people is, one, keep it short and sweet and to the point. Like, this is what the show is, this is where it's airing, and then this is what you'll get out of it. And then obviously beef it up as much as possible. Like, throw in, Spotify, Apple, NBC, Amazon, whatever you can, and just give them some sort of like, okay, if I dedicate my time for this, what am I going to get out of it? Be like, we'll send you behind the scene photos, promo videos, things like that. So that's what I've seen work with like the bigger guests. Just reach out to them. I mean, now all their contact information's out there. So just do some research, tell them what the show is, where it's airing, and what they're going to get out of being on the show.
It seems like what they're going to get out of being on the show is kind of a big one, because it's like we're asking you for a favor sort of when you're like that person that has that big following, but I'm going to give you value in this way, which is really nice. I mean, and I think at least for them, they're used to being on a public platform. So they just have to have enough motivation to want to go on your public platform, but bringing them some sort of value instead of asking them to basically do you a favor with nothing in return.
Exactly. 100%. Provide something in return.
Yes.
And what's cool too, I think a lot of them can relate, like they all started from somewhere too. They are probably blowing up. And again, it's still flattering, I'm sure, when they, hey, would you want to come on our show? Most of the time I've gotten positive responses, reaching out. And again, like, shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
What's the worst that's going to happen? They don't respond. Like, who cares?
Whatever. Try again.
I reach out to people all the time who don't respond to me. So it happens.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. They're not all going to respond.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially when they have tons of DMs or whatever sitting in their DM box.
But it's worth a shot. You never know if someone's going to say yes. And just looking at the, the wall up here, like I've had a lot of these people on the shows just from literally emailing them or reaching out or sending them a message on Instagram and asking, doesn't hurt to say no, or doesn't hurt to ask. What's worse than going to happen is going to say no. Yes.
Yes.
No, I totally agree. Gosh, I just had a question. It just blew my mind. I was going to ask you.
Let me ask you guys a question.
Yeah, maybe we'll come back to me.
Where do you see media in your industry going, and how do you guys kind of plan on like taking advantage of it? Now that we're going into 2020, new decade, if we go back and listen to this podcast 10 years from now, like where do you think we'll be, aside from the show being much better,
wildly popular?
Yeah, huge. Aside from you guys being international superstars, like what trends are you guys seeing in your industry?
Crystals is in commercial.
Yeah, I feel like my industry is like sort of ancient. Like we are really slow to get there. It's funny because I've been doing some Google ads and stuff. It's like hard to even find competitors. Like I know that they're out there somewhere, but there's not very many of them. So I think that in my industry, commercial, there are more people doing more, but we're so far behind. Like right now, technology is like a broker feels really cool because he has a drone video for his listing. That's
exciting. That's good for you though.
Yes.
That's the best thing you could possibly do, because you're so much at the forefront. You're becoming a leader in that space.
Yes. I don't even know anybody who does commercial financing who's involved really in social media. I see some brokers who are now starting and posting their videos. But again, I think they haven't gotten out of that like whole mindset of it needing to be really well produced. Like their videos are all like fancy. So you can tell they spend a lot of money on it. You're like, that's great, but then like all those times in between, let's start posting. So I do think that for us, we're just going to continue to evolve and like get on the social media bandwagon, hopefully, because there are just like the big names out there. It's like Grant Cardone and like a handful
There's
of other
companies
people.
like I saw CBRE, they have a podcast. I think they're all slowly the bigger companies. That company's like, let's start a podcast. Or they're doing some stuff, dabbling. I think in residential, there are some people
Decent amount, yeah.
they're trying to do some podcasting, I think in sales too, but there's a lot of video in this. But I think honestly, just getting in front of the camera like I do and like sharing about all your knowledge of what you know right now is like I don't think a lot of people are doing it probably that consistent. Like just every single topic you can think of, just get on and have a video about it. Like I'm not saying I'm the only one, but there's not many people that probably write on the whiteboard and just start talking about topic after topic. And I think that's helping you out. But in 10 years, boy, I can't even think where things would be.
Who knows, right?
Well, now everybody's trying to jump on like TikTok. Like I haven't even begun to figure that thing out. I was like, I am not entertaining enough to do a TikTok video.
But you know, it's funny. Was it Billie Jean or somebody said, he goes, in the future, he's like, a restaurant's just going to have a video where it shows you walking in, and it's going to be a video. Like when you click on Yelp, it's going to be like, you're going to see a video of the restaurant and about it. And that's where I'm like, why aren't people doing that? It's like, here's my restaurant. You click on their website, but it's like, why isn't it like the video walks them through, and here's the bar, and here's this, and this is what's popular on the menu. And it's like selling you on the restaurant, but it's just telling you about it, right? I see that in the near future becoming more and more common. Like everybody's going to have a video that talks about their restaurant or their mortgage company or their real estate company or their video, whatever it is, right? Like, but I think people are just so slow to adapt.
Yeah.
Like there are so many people doing it already now, so it even sounds ancient and kind of funny for him to even say that. There's so many people doing it, but then there's also just like probably 90% of the world that's also not doing it. So
well, probably 95. You probably know. What are you seeing? What do you think?
So it's funny because you guys are kind of two different spaces that are actually very opposite almost, where I think you're in a great position because the industries where no one's doing anything, it's like, cool, you're going to pop ahead and be the leader
I think
right
so.
away. Like I work with a lot of people in the finance industry and they're same thing, like old school, spending thousands of dollars printing out mailers and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. So like I work with a really young financial advisor, and because he's savvy about, using media, using video, using a podcast, even though he's younger, he's reaching so many more people than these old school established financial advisors. So that's kind of how I see, like you're doing the right thing. And more residential, I see a lot of everyone's being like, you got to have a video. You got to be doing this. Like the Tom Ferrys, the Brian Buffini's, all those coaches are like, everybody needs to do it. So I think what's cool is the people who are doing it well will again emerge from that. And it's beneficial for the home buyers because they're getting good, valuable content. And then again, like you always see the same people and you think it's being overdone, but for every person you see, there's 100 people not doing anything.
It's not more, right?
Yeah. Probably more than that.
I totally agree. I think too that the consistency of people, they start off and then and so because this is a lot of work. Like what they don't really tell you is all these people, like when I went to see Gary Vee, he was just like, yeah, what you motherfuckers don't know is I have 29 people behind me, and if you think you're going to catch up to me, I'll go hire 29 more. That's how he is because he's competitive, but he's just said it's hard to do consistent, so get a team, spend the money. He says if I was working, I wouldn't hire an assistant. I have too much work. I would hire a videographer and a marketing person first. Why? Because this person isn't going to make me money. That person will. And then I can always hire this person. But this person, get him going, and then you hire another one. He goes, I would spend my money that, not that. People are like, what? He goes, I just work harder and longer for a short time and get this person and that. I think that's where Crystal even had a fear of like spending money on marketing. She's just like, I don't see the value, of course, because you're 100% referral. You didn't get it, and you probably would still do
I've never spent any money on marketing until this year.
But I'm like, but let's just say we're a year, not even a solid year into this. We're about, close to a solid year into this. It's our first year, and we're already seeing it. I'm like, is there a time where you could just catapult? That's what happens is people go, and all of a sudden it's catapult. And my catapult would be different than when somebody else wants, But I think that she doesn't realize if she catapults, that when she, her audience is here, but when she goes there, it just gets bigger, and that means more deals. And that's really what it resulted in. So I think the problem I see in my space is the lack of consistency because they try, and they go, and then like you said, oh, I'm not seeing the results. This is stupid.
And it needs to be strategic, like you mentioned, but Also, it should be fun. Like, we have a lot of fun doing the podcast.
Mhm.
Like, we really enjoy it.
This is easy.
And
It's
sometimes
fun.
it's stressful
Yeah.
because, like you said, like some deal could be falling apart, and we're like, I got to run into the podcast
yeah.
or whatever. That happens. But like at the end of the day, we really enjoy doing it.
Mhm. I think people our age too want to work with people that they just enjoy working with, and that's a big factor in determining businesses to work with, individuals to work with, and by having fun with it, I think that really draws people in, probably without you even realizing it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because like I always use the example of like when I bought my car is that I never even thought that I wanted like the car that I ended up getting was not the car I ever thought I was going to get. But why did I buy it? Because the sales guy was like the nicest, coolest guy. Like I was just hanging out with him and I was like, all right, I'll just buy the car.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, like whether it's loans or real estate agents or, computer repair or, financial services,
Yeah.
like you actually people work with you because they like you, not because you know the most or you're the most sophisticated or you're the most educated or you're the most professional. People work with you because they like you.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole
Look at-
thing.
look
And
at
how do
Grant.
people know if they like you if they don't know you?
And I think
That's
Grant's,
very true.
you might not agree with everything, Grant, but he knows how to build a brand, and I think he's right about a few things. One is he says people not necessarily going to buy the best product, they buy the most known product.
Mhm.
Yes.
And then another thing is with service is people aren't necessarily going to go to the best service, they're going to go to somebody they really like.
Mhm.
Like if somebody here has a better
100%.
deal, but they're like, I don't like the guy, and they like you, they're like, I'll pay an 8 higher rate because I don't like this guy, and
Yeah.
maybe he's giving me.
And maybe some people will go to the like cheaper guy. They might, but the truth of the matter is most of us work with people we like.
Totally. I mean, here's a real life example that happened to me this week. Went on Groupon. I found like a really good rate for 1 month at this gym. Went to the gym, did my month, and while I was there, met the owners, and they're the nicest people I've ever met. Super cool. Invested in me getting in better shape, and my month ended, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna shop around and see, what else I can get. And I was shopping around, got different prices and stuff, and I was like, that gym's way more expensive. And I was like, screw it. I know those guys. I'd rather pay the extra money because I'm
money to
gonna
them, support them.
Yeah, they're a local business. Support them. They're up and coming. I know I'm gonna get more, probably help from them because that dollar goes a lot further too than signing up
Is
for
it- what
24
kind of
hour
gym is it?
fitness. Cali for Fitness. Shout out. They're awesome. Yeah, if you guys ever.
We just had the guys from Renegade on.
So
Yeah.
okay, I don't know if I should say this, but it came down to Renegade or Cali for Fitness. Renegade was $60 a month cheaper, and I went with Cali for Fitness because I built that relationship with those
Yeah.
guys.
No, totally.
So nothing against Renegade. I'd never met you guys, but again, just going back to wanting to be around people that you genuinely like, it's a perfect example of me willing to spend more money to do it.
That goes to show though like how strong a relationship can be with someone. Like
Mhm.
you don't even know if you like another gym or not. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm not even going to go there because I just like who I have.
Yeah.
So that's really the way most people do business. And it's like, you feel good when you go there. You feel good when you see them. Like it feels like it's like a relationship. It's not just a transaction. And so like that's what social media does for you too. Like people like Kenny gets on those videos and he acts so silly, but people are like entertained. They don't even need a mortgage. Some of them, they're like, I don't even need a loan. I just like watch it. So one
Yeah.
day when they need a loan, they'll remember. And so that's why I always say too, it's really hard to quantify the people who are just doing this solely for the purpose of income and to make money. It's like you really can't quantify that because really you're building a relationship with people.
Yep.
And relationships take time. That's like coming to somebody and never having met them and like proposing marriage.
Right.
You're like, I can't do that. Like that, you're gonna get laughed at. That's not gonna happen for you. So
Yeah.
this is like this like a dating relationship that's like slowly moving forward.
Especially.
Well, what's funny? How about this? You lose a deal, and somebody's like, "That other guy's a jerk. He doesn't even know me." Like it's like you just said it. He doesn't know you because you literally won't go on camera. You won't put yourself out there. You have this easy platform, and that's the thing is like, look, if we're looking for at our age group, if you're gonna look for somebody to work for somebody, you look him up online. And this guy has podcasts and a YouTube channel, and you can see him, his personality, and this guy has nothing. You're gonna go here, just like when you go stay on vacation rentals. You have 50 reviews, 5-star, and this guy has, 5 reviews and 5 stars. You're like, gosh, 50. It's like you're gonna probably go here
Yeah.
because in the video is personal. It's like your fault. You're not even putting yourself.
And
out
really
there.
it's trust. Like people feel like if they can relate to you and you're putting yourself out there that they can trust you. because also now you're a public figure. Like, would a public figure do something that's like untrustworthy? You know, like,
Right.
no, but really you feel that way. Like the logical mind like tells you that when you're watching it. Like, I trust this person because they're out there, they're on, like, we actually have, I've gotten other, let's say, leads or prospects, like for example, Google ads. I have people call me now or reach out to me that I've never met in my life. And most of the time they go, well, of course I looked you up. Like, obviously I'm not going to do business with somebody I haven't looked up. And you have these YouTube videos and hey, that video that you did on this, like that really like resonated with me. I liked that.
Yeah.
And so
Shocker,
now
right?
they're just
Yeah.
really nice to me. And now we do business together. Maybe I wouldn't have if I was just doing Google ads with no YouTube videos and no podcasts and none of this other stuff. I probably wouldn't gain their trust. But now I gain their trust and I don't have to do a sales pitch over the phone. They already watched 5 of my videos before they even called me. And they're like, oh, I did my homework. Like, people do that to me all the time. Oh, I looked you up. I'm like, great. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even it's a big part of investing in yourself too. You know, one thing that I've noticed is the difference between, again, going back to those like 4 layers where referrals, selfies, professional content, people see there's a big gap between someone who's posting a selfie. There's nothing wrong with that if you're just getting started. But if people see, oh, this person's spending money to build their brand, to get themselves out there, to have a show, to have a podcast, to have a video, that means they take themselves very seriously in their profession. I mean, most people don't have to go out and hire a videography team, and that's extra cash in their pocket for their business. But the people that do, it shows that, again, they're willing to invest in themselves to grow. And I noticed that too. It's like, cool, this small business spent X amount of money to put themselves out there. And I have a certain amount of respect for that because they're trying to grow, and it builds trust because it means they take themselves seriously enough and they believe in themselves enough to spend that money to put themselves out there.
It shows confidence for sure now. Like, if you're willing to put yourself out there, you're like, okay, well, they should be decent at least. You know what I mean? At the very minimum, because they're out there and they're marketing themselves and they feel confident enough to put themselves out there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
huge.
you know, it's like the it's like somebody used to say, it's like the people that were the top realtors, they were in dream homes over and over and over and over and over, and then the billboards and this. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna use that person because if they spend the money to do dream homes, they must be great. And then now it's those people that were old school, like, shit, dream homes isn't really, it's working, but there's this other thing here, and they're either catching on or not. But I think it comes down to the same thing. It's just this authoritative figure because you're spending money. If you spend money, they must be good, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it is.
That means you must make money to spend money too.
That's it right there. Yeah, you got to be having clients and having revenue coming in to be spending that money. So it's a good sign. Yeah.
What's your kind of in closing here? What's some of you'd say with a client or somebody listening? Like, what's probably with all your experience, all the stuff you've done, which seems like a lot. What's probably some of the most important tips you can give back to somebody that might be listening?
Again, you know, just be consistent with stuff. I always recommend identify what your end goals are. What do you want to achieve with it? And then just use media as a tool to help you get there. I won't give any details. I don't know, maybe I can. I have one client who's in the real estate space, and we're kind of trying to identify and create a show, you know, to market her. I was like, well, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to accomplish with this show? And she was like, honestly, and I was like, not even just the show. Like, what do you want to accomplish with your life? Like, do you want to sell more houses, or do you want to sell less houses to higher net worth individuals? She was like, honestly, I don't even really like selling real estate. I just use it to pay my bills.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, then let's not make a real estate show. Let's make something else that you want to do. And we actually identified, and it was a really cool, you know, eye-opening experience for me, was she wanted to do something totally different. So we created a show where, you know, it helps her brand slowly but surely to ultimately accomplish this totally separate goal. But we also kind of, the underlying theme is building in the real estate marketing aspect of it too. So she's doing 2 things. She's slowly working towards this end goal, which is totally outside of real estate. But she's still marketing herself through the show to sell real estate. And what's really cool is this new goal. Can I just say it? Like, I don't think it's a big deal. It's a show called Uncorked with Risha Guarnada. She loves wine. She's like, if I could, I would just drink wine and sell wine and be around wine all day. So we conceptualized the show Uncorked. So she drinks, it's a podcast, and she drinks wine, you know, and talks real estate and business and branding. And within a couple episodes of, actually, no, it was the first episode, we put it out there. Empathy Wines, Gary V's wine company, reached out to her and was like, we want to be on your show.
Because so many people are like loving wine and talking about things.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's what was really
So
cool was like just we, if we didn't have that conversation, it would have just been a real estate show. And I think that's what's cool about you guys is you probably figured out, oh, we don't want to just talk about real estate all day. We want to talk to interesting people and
also
provide value.
Entrepreneur.
Well,
exactly.
We have full lives outside of our careers.
Exactly.
Like, outside of your business, you either are like into fitness or you love traveling or you love drinking wine or whatever it is. It's like people need value no matter what.
For somebody that's like,
but that's really cool.
Maybe find a passion that you love and then it's the focus around that, but also you can still build in real estate.
But also too, like how many people are looking to buy a house that are like, I love wine too.
Exactly.
Hey, so while we're doing your contract, we go over, I'm going to open a bottle of wine and we're going to close the damn deal. It's like,
and she's
geek out over like what vintage is best or whatever new thing,
awesome.
That's
awesome. So I think that's my biggest takeaway is identify what do you want to accomplish and then reverse engineer a plan to use media to get you there. I think a really easy example for this is if you're a real estate agent, you're just getting started, I want to sell homes in La Jolla. Well, go out and, create some videos of you in the beaches of La Jolla and in nicer homes and,
go interview a lot of business owners in La Jolla.
Exactly.
I eat at your restaurant. I've been here 100 times. I want to interview. What's so great about it? Go have an interview, right?
Basically, just put yourself out there, and I don't want to say force it to happen, but go make it happen. And having that end goal helps you get there. And I think a lot of people just start without knowing where to go. So having that end goal, but also be willing to kind of tweak it along the way too. So that's my biggest takeaway that I can give to someone is identify what your both business and individual lifestyle goals are and use media as a tool to help you get there.
Cool. Where can people find you and they want to hire you?
Dylan Welch Media on Instagram, dylanwelch.com. My email is dylan@dylanwelch.com. Someone texted me and they were like, hey, can you send me your email and your website? I was like, I sound really conceited right now, but it's all part of the branding, I guess.
It's really smart though, because honestly, that's another tactic. You're like, you don't have to look up some weird name.
Yeah.
If you're looking for me, there I am.
Make it easy as possible. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think honestly, you're in a good space. I think it's a
growing space for sure too.
It's not even growing. I think it's so needed.
Yep.
And I don't think people understand the value. So it's cool that you're out there pushing it because it must be a passion for you too, but the value is huge. And I know you got to be a part of a couple other things where you could see the value and then you can make it your own in your own business. So that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you guys
for going out and doing that and having
appreciate it. Yeah, no, thanks again for having me on the show. It's awesome. And whatever I can do to help you guys out. If you're listening, these guys are awesome. So go check them out. And again, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome.